Postulants. For those who do not know me, my name is the Reverend Kimutai Jesus. I teach philosophy. I not only teach philosophy, I also teach other units. And I want to say that as you are preparing for ministry, theological training is very critical. Theological training will make you to be an important servant of God. You will be all-rounded, prepared. Here, you will learn about psychology. Psychology is the study of the mind and human behavior. You'll be able, as you look at people, to be able to discern what behavior of a human being entails. Later, you will discover sociology and look at man as a social animal. You look at people like Emily Durkheim. You will study Herbert Spencer, the brainchild of survival for the fittest. Later, in your theological journey, you learn systematic theology. Systematic theology derived from two Greek words, theos and logos. Theos is God, logos is the study. Systematic theology, in essence, is the arrangement of biblical message into topics, according to Wayne Grudem. And we look at the theology of God proper. We look at the attributes of God. Later, we look at Christology. And we look at Christ according to the Chalcedonian formula. Christ is fully God and fully man. Then later, we look at the doctrine of Trinity. That God is one in three persons, according to the Athanasius Creed, not confounding the essence of God or dividing the persons. Later, we are going to look at African Christian theology. That is when you make our theology relevant to the African context and situation. Later, you're going to look at Anglicanism. Look at the history of the Anglican Church, how it came into being. And I want to tell you, Anglican Church, from the first century, derived from the first century, that is when missionaries went to the island of England. And they spread the gospel. Around 200 AD, under Domini, there were bishops from Britain. 597, Augustine of Canterbury was appointed bishop and sent to England. Later, during the Reformation, there were personal reasons why the Anglican Church was formed. There are also political reasons. They wanted to be free. Personal reason is that the king wanted a heir, but Catherine of Aragon was producing ladies, so he wanted a divorce. That is the personal reason why the Anglican Church was formed. There was the English Reformation. Then there is the ecclesiastical reason. People like Thomas Cranmer wanted to reform the Anglican Church. You are going to discover that the Anglican Church is via media. We are not totally Catholics. Neither are we completely Protestants. Later, we'll study Anglican theologians. Look at people like G.I. Parker, John Stott, Cranmer. We are going to look at Anglican ecclesiology, church planting, and all these other units. But for today, allow me to make you philosophers in few moments. Today, we are going to look at philosophy. And I want to say philosophy is the foundation of any postulant. Allow me to say that philosophy is derived from its etymology, from its roots, from two Greek words. And these words are philos and Sophia. Philos means love, and Sophia means wisdom. Therefore, in a nutshell, philosophy is the love of wisdom. Somebody by the name of Socrates said that philosophy is about asking questions. Indeed, philosophy asks the fundamental questions of life. What is life? What happens when I die? That is indeed philosophy. Every fundamental questions. Why do I live? Why do I exist? Who am I? Who are you? Are you sure? Who told you? Are you sure you are in St. Paul's Theological College? In the mind or in reality? Your mind, you may be dreaming. That's why in philosophy you question everything. And I want to say, in a nutshell, as I conclude, asking questions, fundamental questions of life is part of philosophy. Why am I here? Who am I? Who are you? Are you what we see or what is inside? Sometimes we cannot ascertain. Today, in short, I want to tell you there are 5 branches of philosophy. There are 5 distinct branches of philosophy. 5 branches of philosophy. The first branch of philosophy is called metaphysics, derived from the Greek word beyond the physical. It is the study of being and reality. The study of being and reality is metaphysics. In metaphysics, we ask fundamental questions like, does God exist? Is there life after death? That is what we call metaphysics. The study of being and reality is called metaphysics. One of the branches of philosophy. I want to say it is indeed good that you know all the 5 branches. Number 1, I'm saying the first branch is called what? Metaphysics. Are we together? Yes. It's called what? Metaphysics. You study like free will. Do you have a free will? Did you have a free will to come to St. Paul's Theological College? There are many colleges. If you really, some people say, yes, I had a free will. But some people will say, no, you are constrained by circumstances. Did you have a free will to choose the wife that you have? Some will say yes. Some will say no. That's a question of metaphysics. Number 2, we have what is called metaphysics. Then the second branch is called epistemology. The study of knowledge, the extent of knowledge, and the limitation of knowledge. And there are 2 kinds of knowledge I want to tell you, brethren. Number 1, there is a knowledge without experience. It is called a posteriori knowledge. A posteriori knowledge. A posteriori knowledge. That is knowledge without experience. A posteriori knowledge without experience. Like 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Do you need to have experience to know 1 plus 1 is equals to 2? No. That is what is called a posteriori knowledge. Number 2, we have a knowledge that is called no, the first one is a priori. A priori knowledge is knowledge without experience. 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Then a posteriori knowledge is knowledge after experience. And there are two kinds of philosophers. When you look at the rationalists believe in a priori knowledge because they think senses are always deluding and deceiving. Senses are always deceptive. But the reality of the matter is sometimes a priori knowledge in mathematical things, a priori knowledge works. A posteriori knowledge sometimes is posteriori knowledge, like knowledge after experience. Your experience might not be mine. One day I went to a youth rally. Someone preached and he said, I met my wife while I was taking a soda. I don't know if Emmanuel will use that methodology. And after taking a soda, that's because his knowledge, his experience might not relate to my stuff. Therefore, sometimes your experience is only good, but for you. True or false? True. Sometimes our brethren or Shirika from Nyanza, you know, sometimes they wanted the experience to be mine, but sometimes my experience is different from yours. Even in your home, kuna wengine wanakulanga nyama saa 12 ndio wakule na watoto, wengine wanakula saa 6 usiku, so that the children cannot get it. And I want to tell you, the experience of every home is distinct and different. The third branch is called ethics. Ethics. Ethics is knowing right and wrong. And there are three kinds of ethics. Number one, there are people who believe that there is objective ethics. Objective ethics is that ethics that applies to everyone and to everyone, everywhere. It's called objective ethics. Killing is wrong everywhere. That is what is called objective ethics. Number two, there are people who believe in relative ethics. Relative ethics is that ethics that we believe that some things are good for particular communities, but not for every community. It's called relative. In Maasai, I hear, somebody is smiling. She comes from that background. In Maasai, your age set, you can just go and enjoy yourself in your age sets. Manyata, so long as you plant the spear. But don't tell someone from Nambale, he will kill you. Ukweli ama uongo? Na kwamba hawezi enda tu kutembea huko na salamu. But in Maasai it's allowed. Relative ethics. Certain places, masturbation was allowed. Certain cultures. But in certain cultures it was wrong and condemned. So that is what is called relative ethics. Lastly, there is an ethics that is called subjective. This subjective ethics is based on a personal tests and preferences. Personal tests and preferences. So you must understand. And as we look at ethics, we sometimes look at bioethics. And we look at things like euthanasia. You know euthanasia? Mercy killing. There is active mercy killing, where you shoot someone because they are terminally ill with cancer that is untreatable and is in pain. And he says, shoot me to kill me. It's called active euthanasia. Passive euthanasia is where you remove the life support machine and let someone go to glory. Sometimes we debate, like GMO is a philosophical question. The current government, you know it, is called the wheelbarrow government. That thing, they are saying that GMO is good. And someone says there are many ways to die in Kenya. Maybe we are just studying another one. But what am I trying to put across? The GMO, bioethics, is an ethical issue. Should we consume GMO in America? Yes. You'll find the people there are very huge. GMO is good. But in Europe, they will not buy anything related with GMO. They want things that are organic. Just like young men, kuna wengine wanakulanga kuku ya kienyeji, na kuko ni wale ambao wanakulanga broiler. But anyway, Manu will explain to you that. But they understand GMO. This is an ethical issue. Are we together? Ethics. Later, another branch, the fourth one, is called logic. Logic is the study of sound reasoning or the correct argument. And I'm going to tell you there are two kinds of arguments. There is valid arguments and invalid arguments. Valid argument is where the premises support the conclusion. It's called a sound argument, where the premises support the conclusion. It's called a sound argument. Then there is this invalid argument or fallacies. There are two kinds. We have formal fallacies and informal fallacies. Formal fallacies are where the premises do not support the conclusion. Like the premise, all men are violent. Emmanuel is a man. Therefore, Emmanuel is violent. That is a good argument. The premise supports the conclusion. But a formal fallacy is, I say, all men are violent. Emmanuel is a man. Therefore, Emmanuel is the most soft-spoken man in St. Paul's Theological College. That is a formal fallacy because the premises do not support the conclusion. Are we together? It's called a formal fallacy. The premise is that all men are violent. Emmanuel is a man. When there is a sound argument, you say, therefore, Emmanuel is violent. But when you say Emmanuel is a polite man, that is a formal fallacy. Number two, we look at things that are called informal fallacies. Informal fallacies is a fallacy where the argument is weak in context and context. The argument is weak in context and context. It's called a fallacy. It's called an informal fallacy. Some of the informal fallacies I'll mention few because of time. One is fallacy ad hominem. Fallacy ad hominem is a fallacy where fallacy ad hominem is a fallacy where you attack a person instead of the argument. Like when I stand and speak, and you say, that is what is called a fallacy ad hominem. Instead of attacking my argument, you attack my personality. Are we together? It's called fallacy ad hominem. Are we together? There is another one that is called straw man's fallacy, where you misrepresent straw man fallacy, where you misrepresent the argument. This is very good with politics. This is very prevalent with politicians. You misrepresent the argument of Manu. And then when I misrepresent it, I attack what I've misrepresented. Like during this Azimio thing, and you say it's Ida Odinga who said that churches should be regulated. And people engage in a strawman's fallacy. And they said she has said all churches should be closed. And they fought her on that. But it was based on a fallacy. It is not what she said. Even in the parish, there will be many fallacies you meet. People will misrepresent, misquote your argument. But you must understand that that is a fallacy. The fifth branch. Are we together? Sorry, I talk like this, and especially when I'm... The fifth branch of philosophy is called aesthetics. The study of beauty is what Manu. What is the most beautiful color? Green. That's green. Beauty. Some people say small is beautiful, like Manu. Some people think big is better. You see, beauty is cultural. In certain culture, they look at Masquembe. The bigger, the better. Most beautiful Masquembe. Others, they think small is beautiful. Something big is better. What is beauty? Beauty is to the beholder. And the expression of love and beauty. And when you appreciate beauty, oh, wonderful. That is a branch of philosophy that is called aesthetics. We have finished the branches of philosophy. You can see philosophy. It's very simple. It's like eating mandazi in the hotel. Very simple. Now, I want to tell you, everything under the sun is philosophy. Everything. Me, I have PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Theological Studies. Even theology is philosophy. Mathematics is philosophy. Geography is philosophy. Every other subject under the sun is philosophy. When somebody gets PhD, whatever field, it's called Doctor of Philosophy. Because everything, every inquiry under the sun is truly philosophy. Philosophy is an inquiry that entails analysis, speculation, criticism,
interpretation.
And interpretation. Interpretation, analysis, criticism, and speculation. That is philosophy. Anything under the sun is philosophy. Are we together? So don't think that's why philosophy is called the queen of all sciences. Everything that you study is what? Philosophy. Even if it is geography, even if it is psychology, all of it is philosophy. Are we together? Tuko pamoja? Now, let's look at some of the methods of doing philosophy. What are some of the methods that people have ascertained and have decided to do philosophy? One of the first methods is called dogmatism, where people hold certain premises as true and incontrovertible truth. Like God exists. You hold it as true without even desiring to prove. You hold, it's called the dogmatic approach methodology of doing philosophy. The other one is called skeptical approach, where you begin everything with doubt. David Hume was a skeptic. He doubted everything. And I want to say empiricism goes with skepticism. Empiricism is that everything, can only be considered true unless, everything can only be considered true unless, and I repeat, unless it is proved by the 5 common senses. That's a method of doing philosophy. And we have looked at this. There is another method that is called the dialectical method, where everything you believe that there is always a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis. That's a method of doing philosophy. There is this method that is called the midwife method of doing philosophy, where you help people to discover their own truth, like a man by the name of Socrates. He said, the only thing I know is that I don't know anything. Do I know if I have students in class? No, I don't know. Why? The only thing I know is that I don't know anything. Are we together? Now, in philosophy, as I summarize, there are different phases and history of philosophy. First phase is what is called the pre-Socrates philosophers. The pre-Socrates philosophers. Among the pre-Socrates philosophers, we begin with a man by the name of Thales. Thales, according to Thales, he was not like the theologists or the poets who believed in myths. Pre-Socrates philosophers began the foundation for scientific thinking. And according to pre-Socrates philosophers, first thing that is very critical is to discover the primordial stuff. What really formed the universe? Not with the explanation of God, but with the natural explanation. According to them, the pre-Socrates philosophers, Thales, according to him, the primordial stuff that everything was formed, according to Thales, is water. Kila kitu ilitoka kwa maji. Why? Because water can be found in three states: solid, liquid, and gas. Thales was also a man who was able to calculate the distance between the sea, the speed and the distance of the sea from the sea to the shore by observing it from different places. He was also able to calculate the height of a pyramid by looking at the shadow. He began mathematics. But remember, according to him, the primordial stuff of the universe is water. And Thales was able to predict the eclipse of the moon that occurred in 538 BC. The second philosopher that I'm going to look at is someone by the name of Anaximander. According to Anaximander, the primordial stuff was not water, but the primordial stuff is the undifferentiated mass. Undifferentiated mass. And these undifferentiated mass, from it, particular things were formed. And that is the man by the name of Anaximander. Anaximander believed in some crude explanation of the theory of evolution. He said that everything was living in water, but water sometimes left some dry lands. And some animals that lived in the water were found to be in dry land. Those animals that adapted survived. And that was survival for the fittest. And he also believed that the universe is like cylinder moving in water. He was able to predict that the world is round. The other one is a man by the name of Anaximander. He observed living things. And he said, according to him, the primordial stuff is air because of its inner vitality. There are two things he believed in: condensation and rarefaction. When air is condensed, it becomes hard. And when air is compressed, when air is let loose, it evaporates. So I believe the primordial stuff is air. Air is very, very critical. Without air, you remember during the time of coronavirus, everybody was suspecting, as in you are trying to breathe and see if you have coronavirus. You remember? But you suspect, maybe I have it. Anyway, I contracted corona while I was teaching here. Thank God I'm alive. It was God's grace. But primordial stuff is here. The other man is the man by the name of Heraclitus. Heraclitus believed that what is real is change. Everything changes. And according to Heraclitus, you cannot jump into the river twice because it becomes a different river. It's not the same river, it becomes a different river. Air, change. Change is better simplified by fire. Everything comes from fire and is destroyed by fire. What you see as permanent is an illusion. But what is real is the change. So nothing is permanent, everything is changing and becoming. Even your bloodstream. Are you the same person who came from home? You're always changing, according to Heraclitus. The last philosopher that I'm going to look at is a man by the name of Parmenides. According to him, he differed with Heraclitus. According to him, change is an illusion. Permanent is what is real. What is ever changing is an illusion. In fact, you cannot know what is ever changing. It is an illusion. What is real is what is permanent. So the being, that being, the unchanging being, that is what is real, according to Parmenides. In summary, those are the 5 critical pre-Socrates philosophers. Now, let me look at the great era of philosophy. And there are only 3 philosophers that I am going to look at today. One is a man by the name of Socrates. Socrates even never put on shoes. He did not brush his teeth. He did not concern himself about personal hygiene. He was smelly. Socrates did not have a lecture hall like this one. Neither did he have a classroom. He always asked people questions. And there is what is called the Socrates irony. Socrates claimed not to know anything. He said, the only thing I know is that I do not know anything. That is somebody by the name of Socrates. The only thing I know is that I don't know anything. That is Socrates. What about this guy by the name of Socrates? Socrates' irony is that he claimed not to know. But the people who claimed to know did not know anything. What is courage? Somebody can ask, what is courage? Somebody says, courage is facing danger without fear. Facing danger without fear. Is it courage or is it foolishness? Kwa sababu wezi wanakuja, unasikia watu wanapiga nduru, and you run out naked. Are you courageous or you are foolish?
Courageous.
Haujui kama huyu mtu amebeba silaha, mapanga ama bunduki. You're just running naked. I think you are becoming foolish. Yes. So Socrates challenged the people who claim to know, and he claimed not to know. It's sometimes humility to claim not to know. Si umetoka hapa Kenya, umetoka St. Paul's Theological College, you have been here for 3 months. You talk about you think you know everything. The only thing I know is that I don't know anything. Do I know Anglicanism? No, I don't. The only thing I know is that I should not get you preaching outside the lectionary. By the way, I have 300 sermons in YouTube, and every sermon must be from the lectionary. Never ever, msiwahi fanya maheo. Mercy, do you hear? I taught you somewhere in a camp. Whatever you are doing, God knows. I'm not sure. But the only thing that I don't want you to preach is preach outside the lecture. Socrates' method was, there is another thing that is called the Socrates puzzle, or the Socrates problem. Irony and the Socrates problem. The Socratic problem is that he never wrote anything. So what we read about him was his presentations by his students, Plato being one of them. Now, we'll go from Socrates and examine Plato. Plato is among the greatest students of Socrates. And key to understanding his philosophy is the theory of forms and ideas. According to him, what we see is an illusion. The real thing is what we do not see. That is in the realm of forms and ideas. But these are the sensual reality. What we see is unreal. What is unseen is not real. He believed in the dichotomy of a human being. The body, what we see, is bad. Hii mwili ndio inapoteza watu, sio? Mwili ndio mbaya. But what is unseen, the soul, is the real you. This body is an illusion. He had what we call the theory of forms and ideas. And that encompasses all his philosophy. He said there are people who are for courage, those are the soldiers. People for courage and appetites. But the people for the thinking, the souls, those are supposed to be the kings. That is a person by the name of Plato. I told you there is the allegory of the caves. What we see according to him is an illusion. But the philosophers, the people who rationalize and think, go beyond the field of what we see. So Plato is one of the great philosophers. You must understand in the allegory of the cave, said some people sat in the cave. And as they sat there in the cave, who can I use? Come here, my friend, from Nambari. Kuja na kiti yako. Kuja na kiti yako. Sit here. No, like this. Don't be afraid. As I walk around, what do you see here? What do you see as I'm passing? What do you see? No, I don't want you to read this. But as I'm passing, do you see that shadow? Yeah. So if you have been sitting like this since you are born, and as I talk, you think this shadow is talking. And if you think this shadow is real, but then in reality this shadow is an illusion. What is real is a person who is here. So according to Plato, what we are seeing in the allegory of the cave, what we are seeing is an illusion. Until we reason like philosophers. Until one day somebody akatoroka kwa wale watu wamefungwa. Akaenda nje, akaangalia, akaona what they are seeing was an illusion. He saw the sun, he saw everything. He came and told these people, but these people did not like it, and they were afraid of the bright light. They killed him. Therefore, that's how Socrates was killed. You can sit down, please. Sometimes what we see is an illusion. the theory of forms and ideas. Later, we look at a person by the Plato was a master of mathematics, geometry. He was a wrestler. That's why Plato means is the nickname, broad shoulders. And Aristotle was a student. He opened his school. The school of Plato was called the Academy. Aristotle's school was called Lyceum. Aristotle was a student of Plato. And also he taught Alexander the Great. Aristotle was a polymath. He knew everything except mathematics. Socrates, when he was challenged about his conviction, Socrates was accused of spoiling the morals of the youth and introducing false God. People are polygamous, but Socrates believed in one God, monotheism. People are polytheists. He believed in monotheism. So they accused him. Instead of him running away, he died by taking hemlock or poison, Socrates. But Aristotle, when he was accused, he fled. He said he cannot allow philosophy to be done violence twice. They killed Socrates, and he could not allow himself to be killed. But in terms of his personality, when he was in the honeymoon, he was connecting species. So I advise Manu, during your honeymoon, follow the footsteps of in fact, they say he drowned while looking at species under the sea. He drowned and died. He was so absorbed with study. Among the great things about him, he said that in his ethics is the golden mean. Avoid extremes, called the golden mean. According to him, Socrates, the reality is in ideals and forms. It's up there, not in the real objects, because these objects are illusion. But according to Aristotle, reality is in that thing. The reality is in that thing. It's like facts alone. According to Socrates, Plato, emotions and senses are misleading. But according to Aristotle, you cannot get the truth outside your senses. Senses tell you the truth. That is the golden era in summary. Then we have three schools of philosophy. The first school is called rationalism by a man by the name of René Descartes. René Descartes was French, and he began his philosophy by methodological doubt. He doubted everything, but he wanted to have a philosophy that is based on sure foundation and footing. And sure foundation and footing is from reason. He wanted like a mathematical method. And he ended by saying, ego sum. I think, therefore I am. That is who René Descartes. It's called rationalism. Thinking, I think, therefore I am. He also believed in Cartesian dualism. Matter and the soul. What is real is the soul. And thinking was very important. The other person is a school that is called idealism by a man by the name of Hegel. Hegel was a German. Hegel believed in rationalism, not in idealism, during the time of Romanticism. And Hegel believed in dialecticism, that history has always the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis, history. You'll find that even history, something that you think is new is not new. There is always a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis. It's like the thesis was handshake. The antithesis was wheelbarrow. What is the synthesis? There is wheelbarrow, handshake now. And from there will be another antithesis. And it will continue like that and like that. According to him, he believed in something that is called gaze. Gaze is the spirit. It's like God to him. The spirit that controls history. It's called the gaze. So far, we have looked at this man by the name of Friedrich Hegel. Then lastly, we end up by studying a person by the name of Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre is called existentialism. This was after the First and the Second World War, and everybody was dying. And when everybody was dying, existentialism believes that there is no purpose of existence. According to Jean-Paul Sartre, life is an empty bubble out of the sea of nothing. Death is real. Death is absurd, and life is absurd. Somebody struggles, he does a wedding, he spends 40 million, and before the honeymoon, the man gets a plane crash and he dies. So what? Existentialism saw that this life is absurd. It has no purpose, it has no meaning. And it denies all the meta-narratives. According to him, religion and science cannot give the answer. It is for you and yourself to discover the answers of life. For you as an individual, look for answers. Not in the Bible, you yourself. And after all, everything is vanity. Because life is an empty bubble out of the sea of nothing. Have you ever felt that life has no meaning? Sometimes it doesn't seem to have a purpose. A lady struggles, anaikia mwingine finyo, anakataliwa na jamaa, then later anaachwa. Useless. There is no purpose. You struggle, you get first class honors. Then later, you are sent to a place where people do not understand English. That is existentialism by Jean-Paul Sartre. Lastly, we end with a philosophy that is more palatable. It's called African philosophy. This is where I intend to conclude today. African philosophy. Whereas Western philosophy is abstract. Western philosophy is abstract. Western philosophy is up there. African philosophy is more real and practical. It is tangible. Tangible. It's based on real life questions and issues. African philosophy addresses issues of God, magic, the spirit. Do you know African, there are 4 tiers. The first tier is God, who is unseen and not involved. The second tier is the spirits who are either good or malevolent, and they have to be at peace. The third tier is the spiritual practitioners, the omulos, the witch doctor, the priests, the diviners, and the common people. That is African philosophy. It's based on spirits. There are 4 trends of African philosophy. The first strain of African philosophy is called ethno-philosophy. Ethno-philosophy talks about the philosophy of a particular community, the collective wisdom. It is encompassed in myths, it is encompassed in proverbs.